Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather. Welcome if you're new, welcome back if you're not. Today we are doing finally fall tag because it's about time. So let's get started. The first prompt is, in the fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. So I've talked about this book recently, but I'm going to talk about it again, and it's Hannah Witton's The Foxglove King. This book came out earlier this year, and I just don't think it gets enough love. It was a very compelling kind of crossing the borders of young adult, new adult fantasy, and the setting is so rich and dark in this book. It takes place in kind of the slums of a very French-inspired fantasy world, but not only that, it kind of takes place in the sewers and in the back alleys and in the more rundown part of town, but it also takes place in a court that feels very much inspired by Versailles. It's still got these very dark secrets looming around the corner and dark magic. So even though we're surrounded by the beautiful court, we're also surrounded by death and some really creepy magic. So it's definitely worth checking out. I'm really excited about the sequel when it comes out, but yeah, Foxglove King has a very vivid setting. Prompt number 2. Nature is beautiful, but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written, but also deals with a heavy topic like loss or grief. But to be fair, I'm actually not even done with this book yet. I have 30 pages left, but I could not think of another book, and that is The Quiet Tenant by Clémence Michelin. I think I'm pronouncing her name right. I went to a panel where she spoke, and if I'm remembering, that is how they pronounce her name at the panel. But this book is kind of like Room by Emma Donoghue meets You by Carolyn Kepnes. So we're following the points of views of multiple women throughout this story who somehow have a connection with a serial killer. So the first point of view that we get is a woman that he is keeping in his shed. And it's so interesting because that point of view is told in second person. And then it's also told from the point of view of his daughter, who is a 13-year-old girl. And, you know, she's got a relationship with her dad. She doesn't know any of this crazy stuff that's going on. And then we also get perspectives from the women that he has tragically, brutally unalived. This book is so beautifully written. In fact, the panel that I went to that she spoke on wasn't just about thrillers, it was about literary thrillers, and I think this book definitely fits in that category. It's a story about the resilience of women and not the celebration of a serial killer, so I really appreciate that about it. In fact, this is the first book that I have had a dream about in forever. So I think this is a great one to pick up in this kind of fall season. It definitely takes place, I would say, between like fall and Christmas. So as soon as it's cold outside, it's a great one to pick up. It will get in your head though. It will get in your head. Fall is back to school season. Share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. So I'm gonna be honest, and I haven't read that much nonfiction this year, whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But I'm gonna throw up the 2 nonfiction autobiographies I read this year. One is Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton. I definitely learned a lot about his life and also about the behind the scenes of filming the Harry Potter movies, as well as life beyond Harry Potter. And then the other one is Finding Me by Viola Davis. I learned so much about her life in this book that I never would have expected. Also about the acting industry, which is something I know a little bit about, but definitely not as much as she went into. And also about what it's like to be a Black woman who does not find their spot in the industry until later in life. The battles that this woman had to face to become who she is today. Mind-blowing. I definitely recommend both of these autobiographies. In order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family or household or friend group that you'd like to be a part of. If I had to do this every year, my answer would be the same every year, and that is spending Christmas specifically with the Weasleys and the gang. There is something so magical about the friendship that is in these books, and I have never found it replicated. It warms my heart in the purest, most wholesome way, and that is Harry Potter. Tell me you don't want to go be a part of the Weasley family. But if I can't say the same answer that I would say every single year, I have another one. That is Ron and Ibrahim and Joyce and Elizabeth from the Thursday Murder Club, as well as some of their new friends that they have met along the way. They are the most wholesome group of friends. Sometimes when you're reading from their perspectives, you forget that they're in their 70s and their 80s because they feel like somebody that you could go hang out with. Some of the conversations they have around social media and their pets and their families is just so absolutely heartwarming. And they do everything together, from a crossword puzzle to walking the dog to solving murders. And I still haven't read the 4th one. I need to, because I need to be back in their friend group, like stat. The next prompt says, Fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein someone is telling a story. Okay, so I have two for this one. Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson and The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. Both of these books feature characters telling a story. This one, we find a familiar friend from the Cosmere in this story, and not only is he a character in the story, but he is also narrating the story, and I loved it. I loved the wit and the humor that he brought to the story. He definitely went through some of his own afflictions in this story, although it was not a story about him. This book is just a swashbuckling good time, very much in the vein of The Princess Bride. And then The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi is also a pirate story. I didn't realize they were so similar until I started talking about them right now. But this book follows Amina Al-Sarafi, who has kind of retired from pirate life. She was once one of the most feared and notorious pirates on the high sea, but she has opted for a more quiet life to raise her daughter. But one of her former crewmates shows up and is like, hey, please go and find this person for me. She gets involved in far more than she bargained for, and somebody that she goes out to sea with might end up telling her story later. I think this is going to be a series. I really enjoyed my time reading it. This is for fans of Pirates of the Caribbean for sure. You want a good pirate story that is being narrated by somebody else? Both of these are winners. Next prompt says, the nights are getting darker. Share a dark, creepy read. The book I just finished was pretty creepy, and that is Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. I have a whole vlog coming about this book and why it was creepy. It is not the horror that I was expecting it to be, and the kind of horror that it was made it all the more unsettling to me personally for a multitude of reasons. But this book follows Vesper, who is a young woman and basically decided that she was going to leave her home that was part of this fanatical religious cult. She recognized the toxicity in her family and also the basically fraud of what she was raised to believe, and just decided she wanted nothing to do with it. However, she receives a wedding invitation from her cousin announcing that she is marrying Vesper's ex-boyfriend, and whether it is out of support for her cousin or spite for this relationship, she returns home, a whole bunch of secrets are revealed, and then a whole bunch of chaos. And I don't mean that in the fun way. A whole bunch of chaos ensues. Tread with caution. Look up content warnings if you need to. The days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. I don't read many short books, so I did the best I could with this one. And that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. It's relatively short, right? This book was very heartwarming. It dealt with a lot of heavier topics, but in a kind of light way. And so in this book, we follow Clementine, who lives in New York. She's working in the book industry, and she absolutely loved her aunt, but her aunt has now passed away and left her this apartment that she always described as being a magical place. But Clementine's like, yeah, haha, it's magical because you live there, LOL. Comes to find out that it actually does have some magical properties. And when she moves in, it's not long before she discovers that somebody else also lives in the apartment, but they live in the apartment 7 years in the past. So they cross paths only when they are inside this apartment. As soon as either of them leave, they resume their own timelines. And it's a love story. It's a love story to food. It's a love story to books, but mostly it's a love story to yourself as you go through a time of grief and self-discovery. And I really, really liked this book. And last but not least, fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you'd like to return to soon. I'm gonna say Harry Potter with a caveat. So I've read Harry Potter 17 times since I was in the 4th grade. I love Harry Potter. I love it to death. However, I have not watched the movie straight through in forever, and so my revisit to Hogwarts this year, I want to do a movie rewatch, so that is how I plan on reliving a favorite this year. I'm so excited to just kind of visually experience it. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope that you are also enjoying your fall season. It would be great if Mississippi decided to lower the temperature by like 20 degrees, and then I would really feel like it's fall. But what would you say to any of these prompts? If you watched this video all the way to the end and you haven't liked this video yet, what are you doing? Go ahead and give it a like. Make sure that you are subscribed so that you don't miss any bookish content from me. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.